Good evening, South Windsor, and oh my goodness on these microphones, I like it. And welcome to the regular meeting of the South Windsor Town Council, February 21st, 2023 at 7 p.m. And tonight we have a roll call the meeting to order. Now we have our Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councillor Evans, Councillor Kabowski,
Here.
Councillor Lopez.
Here.
Councillor Paterna. Here. Mayor Pendleton,
Present.
Deputy Mayor King,
Here.
Councillor Kozakowski,
Here.
Councillor Gamble,
Here.
Councillor Leidecker.
Thank you. And we have we have an announcement of our Shake Shack grand opening that occurred at Evergreen Walk on 216. It was fabulous because the day before Shake Shack had their grand opening and ribbon cutting, they had a friends and family event where everything was free that day. And you had the opportunity to go in, and I gotta tell you, I went, and the staff was excited. It was a fun-filled day. And then at the grand opening, the staff was so excited to get started, and I gotta tell you, the food was fantastic, good, healthy food. Look up the menu. So welcome to South Windsor Shake Shack. We appreciate you. And now moving on, Councilor Lopez, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the acceptance of the agenda.
Is there any additions, corrections, deletions to the agenda? Deputy Mayor King, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. If we could, can we move 17A and, or excuse me, B and C, 17B and C up the agenda, actually right before the communications, so right before number 6.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Thank you. And now that we've done all of this, I would like to take a second here before we go into executive session, and before you read that, please, I would like to do a special presentation, of which I should have done under my mayor's remarks, for a proclamation to a very special retired judge in the town of South Windsor. I like these new microphones. They pick up everything. This is great. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor.
How are you?
Great.
Good. Oh, gosh, I can't believe you just said that to me. I have to tell you, this is fantastic. Judge Marian Lossman Fisher was sitting on the council many, many years ago, and she was a great inspiration to me. She was a mayor of our community, and for me to look up to her and to watch and to listen what she had to deal with, and I believe maybe it was that nuclear waste site that was happening at the time?
Just after.
Just after that. So we had gone through all of that, but to watch her run the council, run the town, take care of the meetings, handle all the business at hand was a great inspiration for me. So to hear you call me mayor is I was on this side many, many years ago in my pajamas, so it was great. So I want to say congratulations on your retirement as probate judge. So from the town of South Windsor, I have a proclamation for you. Whereas Marian Lossman Fisher was born in Springfield, Massachusetts, and was raised in the small town of Hamden, Massachusetts, with her 3 siblings, Bill, James, and Lucy. And whereas Marianne graduated from Boston College and went on to receive a Master of Science degree in audiology from Central Michigan University. She worked as an audiologist for 10 years while enrolled at the Western New England School of Law evening program to obtain her law degree. And whereas you went to school and worked at the same time. Wow. Whereas Marianne moved to South Windsor, Connecticut after her marriage to Mark Glassman, where they raised their 2 children. And whereas Marianne was elected to the South Windsor Town Council in 1993. She went on to become mayor of South Windsor from 1997 to 2001. In 2002, she helped with the idea of installing a fuel cell in town as an emergency energy source. That was at the high school, right?
Yes.
Right. After her time served on the South Windsor Town Council, she was sworn in as a probate judge in 2001. Mary Ann became the probate judge for the Greater Windsor Probate Court, serving the communities of East Windsor, South Windsor, and Windsor. Mary Ann's work and dedication earned her the title of the 2016 Town Honoree of the St. Patrick's Day Parade. And whereas Mary Ann helped families during their times of loss, establishing estate settlements, conservatorship, child custody matters, accounting of trusts, construction of wills and estates, and the determination of title property, Mary Ann has served her community and our community for over a decade, impacting the lives of thousands, myself included. Thank you. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Elizabeth E. Pendleton, Mayor of the Town of South Windsor, acting on behalf of the Town Council and the residents of South Windsor, do hereby thank and congratulate Mary Ann Lastman Fisher on her many years of service to the community of the Town of South Windsor. Judge Mary Ann Lastman Fisher, signed by myself and the council members before you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We can just absolutely. Here, come up here.
I'd just like to say thank you to the town and thank all of you and our town manager in particular for the support we received to keep the probate court running and keep the probate court operating here in South Windsor. It's a big job. You affect a lot of lives, and it's been a great honor to work in this position as a probate judge. And I do appreciate the fact that the town and the community has supported our efforts. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, can I just point out that we've only had 4 women as mayors of South Windsor, and 2 of them are with us tonight, so congratulations.
Okay, moving on. Deputy Mayor King, 17B and 17C, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At this particular time, I'd like to invite our town attorney, Rich Carrera, attorney Carrie Olson, to join the executive session, along with the town manager, Michael Maniscalco, the assistant town manager, Ms. Perry, and assistant town manager, Mr. Roberts, in regards to 17B, pending claims or pending litigation related to 50 Talbot Lane, and C, pending claims or pending litigation related to Geisler Supermarket.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. We will go convene into executive session. We return after that. Welcome back to the South Windsor Town Council meeting. I'd like to call the meeting back to order. We are now on item 6, which is communications and reports from the town manager. Mr. Maniscalco, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In terms of our Fair Rent Commission, the town staff have been working on creating a South Windsor Fair Rent Commission that can be combined with a housing commission. Both bodies have separate but compatible missions, and by having both together, the thought is that the town will be capable of seating a commission that will have enough work to do on a regular basis and keep that moving. At this point, that's going back and forth between the town attorney and the staff a couple times because there were some questions in trying to get the whole thing put together. We're just waiting on kind of that final tweak from the town attorney, and we'll get something in front of you very shortly. So that's moving along pretty well. In terms of the increased trucks on Rye Street, I think at the last council meeting, a resident from the area made a public comment regarding trucks on Rye Street. My office has also received numerous complaints from residents regarding trucks in the area. After doing some research, town staff identified that the trucks are coming from a gravel pit in East Windsor, and that the owner of that pit has put a sign specifically directing truck traffic down Rye Street to go to the Rentschler Field project. Town staff reviewed the permit that was issued by East Windsor and found that the owner of the pit is only allowed to have 90 trucks a day leaving the pit. After evaluations of the traffic, we determined at least 2 days when there were over 200 trucks leaving in that day. Since then, I've had a conversation with the first selectman of East Windsor, who has assured me that his staff will look into the permit, who has assured me that the staff is working on making sure that the permit is followed and upheld, and that the project will only continue for approximately another month. We will continue to monitor this situation, and if there are major changes in a negative direction, we will make sure that that gets brought back up to you. I was informed just this evening that to date they've seen a reduction in truck traffic in that area as a result. So hopefully we're heading in the right direction and we keep that moving. In terms of our bond refinancing, we refinanced $14.5 million last week. Unfortunately, the market did not cooperate the way we had hoped due to the recent information on inflation that had been released that day. As a result, the savings were not as much as we originally anticipated, but we did secure a 3.18% interest rate, which will save the town approximately $300,000. With $100,000 savings in the first year, which will be incorporated into the upcoming budget. One of the things I would like to just point out for all of us sitting here is the reason we were able to get such a favorable rate that day is because there's been a shortage of AAA high-quality bonds on the market overall. And as a result, when there's a demand and there's a lack of supply, you end up in a better situation. So it just kind of goes to show you how our credit rating has really benefited us again. So very happy with that. And then lastly, I wanted to make sure that the council and the public are aware that the town clerk, the tax collector, and the assessor's offices will be undergoing renovations to make them more accessible to the public while ensuring the safety of staff from COVID-19. This project is funded through federal ARPA monies, and through the renovation process, some offices will need to be temporarily moved to different locations throughout the town hall. We'll make sure that appropriate signage is available and that residents are directed to get the services that they need. So just as an FYI. And I'd be happy to answer any other additional questions anybody might have.
Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Does anyone have any questions or comments for the town manager, please? Deputy Mayor King.
The only question, and thank you for the follow-up, especially in regards to the trucks on Rye Street. Mr. Mathis has been made aware?
I'm sorry,
The gentleman that brought it up, Mr. Mathis, he's been made aware?
we've reached out to a number of the residents that had actually called, so if he's in that list, then he should.
Okay, awesome, because I know that's the guy that brought it to the council, so awesome. Thank you, good job.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the town manager? Deputy Mayor Paterno, Deputy Mayor Paterno, Councilor Paterno,
Thank you,
sorry.
Madam.
I'm thinking of you, Steve,
Thank you,
sorry.
Madam Mayor.
Councilor Paterno. Sorry, Steve, love you to death.
Thanks, Mr. Maniscalco. The question I have is on the Fair Rent Commission. You say Housing Committee, is that the Housing Authority or a separate committee?
No, it's a separate committee, so really the Housing Commission is more of a policy board to help us
Right.
develop and identify the appropriate policies for the community associated with housing moving forward. whereas your Fair Rent Commission is really a authority to review and make decisions on rent and conditions associated with rental locations. So they have different but yet kind of
Right.
similar processes. So
Right.
I know of a couple communities that I've heard about that are doing something similar to this. So we're trying to look at some of that and then working with the town attorney to make sure it's all set very well. Because while they are two separate and distinct hats that the commission would wear, they are kind of go together, so.
Would it make sense for the executive director of the Housing Authority, George Daniels, to be an ex officio member of this Fair Rent Commission? Because I think he'd have a lot of input with some of the senior housing that we have in town. So just as a consideration, if you ask the staff to give that some thought?
We could consider that.
Yeah.
The only concern I would have is it may be a little bit of a conflict, seeing as the Housing Authority is its own separate and distinct entity. While they do work very closely with the town, they are a separate entity. And if there were a complaint that came in related to something at the Housing Authority and their rent, that could be kind of challenging in that regard, but we could certainly talk about it further.
Thank you, Councilor Paterno. Any other questions for the town manager? Not seeing any. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco, for the updates. We'll be moving on to item number 7, public input on items on the agenda. Public input on items on the agenda. Public input should not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by the mayor, the speaker shall approach the lectern, give their name and address. Speakers shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging an improper motive to any person. The speakers may address the council on any item on the agenda. The speakers shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to the council on any item on the agenda? Going once. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to the council on any item on the agenda? Third time, is there anyone from the public who would like to speak to the council on any item on the agenda? Not seeing any, we'll be moving on. Item number 8, Councilor Kabowski, please, adoption of the previous minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Approval of the February 6th, 2023 Town Council meeting minutes. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the minutes of the regular Town Council meeting of February 6th, 2023.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion, corrections, or deletions? Not seeing any. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Item 9, communications from liaisons, officers, and boards directly responsible to the council. Is there any council members that would like to respond? Councilor Kozakowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to report, oops, these are sensitive. I want to report that the Planning and Zoning Commission held a couple public hearings last Tuesday where they were discussing the proposed text amendment, zoning text amendments to address housing development in the town, specifically multifamily housing and residential subdivisions. The Commission Chairman Pasaconis provided a brief presentation of the changes and then opened the floor to the public. It was somewhat well attended. Mostly there was some public comment, mostly from development professionals that live and or work in South Windsor. And the commission took in a lot of testimony and a lot of things for consideration and continued the public hearings to the meeting scheduled for next Tuesday. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other councilor that would like to report on any boards or commissions? Not seeing any. We'll move on. Reports from committees, please. Is there any reports from any of the committees? Not seeing any. We'll move on the agenda. We have the consent agenda, 11A, first reading. Councilor Paterno.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I'm sorry.
Madam Mayor, if I could, before we do that.
Yes.
I think the date is incorrect before we read that resolution.
Oh, yes.
It should be November 30th, 2023, because it's backfilling a spot. It's not a brand new appointment. It's actually replacing someone whose term ends in November.
2023.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Their term ends November 30th, 2023.
Amanda, should it say 2023 or 2029? For WPCA for Joe Kennedy.
Yeah, because that would be like a 6-year term,
Yeah.
which,
WPCA has a 6-year term?
well then, I may stand corrected. I thought it was a replacement for a backfill, in which case the individual's term ended in November. I just happened to notice it. And I don't have a problem with the replacing.
Right. You just wanted the date corrected.
Just the,
It's a 6-year term starting, it would start November 30th of this year.
It would be a 6-year term.
Then how can we, why would we? Well, I would, for the record, if it was a 6-year term, ending November 30th, 2029, it would be starting in 2020 through November 2023. So why would we be appointing somebody in February for a term that wouldn't start until
November.
November?
Why is Mr. Kennedy going on to the WPCA in February as opposed to November? Do we know? That's the date that the term ends, but we're appointing him in February. Was someone else on from November to February? That
Madam
he is
Mayor?
replacing someone?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
when I looked on the website for the Water Pollution Control Authority and the sheet that was left at our
Yes.
desk for David Basile, his term is listed as ending 11/30/25.
11/30/25? So it should say 25 instead of 29.
Yes.
That would make more sense.
And why are we appointing him in here in February? Is he replacing someone? Does it?
On the sheet, it says that he is replacing David Basile.
Oh, that's what
And
it
on the
is.
website, David Basile's term is listed as ending 11/30/25.
Okay, so he is filling the unexpired term of David Basile, so that's how this resolution should have been written. So maybe we can make that, if we can pull that out and read that correctly, that he's replacing David Basile with the correction of the date, is that okay? Or he can just read it, because it should be. Go ahead.
I think Councilor Paterno, when he reads the motion, he can just correct it on the fly.
Right.
Okay.
All right,
Everybody is acceptable to that?
yes.
It's got to be it can't be on consent if we're changing something. It has to be like in a discussion. We have to
think we
pull
have
it
to-
out and talk about it to fix it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, yes, someone needs to make a motion to remove item A1 out
And
of
we should-
consent.
Councilor Paterno should read it first, though, correct?
Yeah, let me read it
Okay,
first.
go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is a motion to approve items 11A1 through 11A2 as a first reading on the consent agenda. Joseph Kennedy and Claudia Bernstein.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? So someone needs to make a discussion to pull this out.
I make a motion to remove item 11A1 from the consent agenda and move it to new business, item H. Should become 13H.
Yep.
Okay.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any discussion? Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. So now, Counselor Paterna, if you can continue with your, now we are approving we received a first and a second on the first readings. So is there any discussion on that? Not hearing any? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any? Thank you. Counselor Paterna, second reading. Who is
All right,
that?
thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a motion to approve 11B1 through 11B2 as a second reading. This is Mitchell Marks and Jan Tar.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Not hearing any? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Thank you, Counselor Paterna. And Counselor Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Motion to approve items 11B3 through 11B4 as a second reading on the consent agenda.
Is there a second? And is there any discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Item 11C, there is none. 12, there is none. 13, new business. Deputy Mayor King, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to bring the chairperson for the WPCA to discuss the bond applications. Well, I'll let him take the podium and take it from there.
Good evening, Mr. Wagner. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Good evening. Is it coming awake? Okay. I just might mention that the Joe Kennedy appointment is for an alternate position.
An alternate, okay, so that needs to be put in
Alternate
there
positions
too.
are two-year terms. You might want to
Okay.
check your ordinance. They're two-year terms, I'm pretty sure.
Thank you. We're good. Mr. Wagner, could you identify yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm Steve Wagner. I'm the chair of the WPCA. I live on Tumblebrook Drive in South Windsor.
Are we going to receive a PowerPoint here, so we should move down and shut the
Well,
lights?
you don't have to because I gave you a printout of it.
Yeah.
Okay,
thank you.
well,
Okay, so,
I have lights in my eyeballs, so.
yep.
Thanks.
It's up to you. So we have a longstanding issue with intermittent odors at the sewer plant. They're caused by a number of different types of events. It may be simply a change in the season, it could be some malfunction in the plant, but in recent time it's been happening frequently enough that the residents have basically been very vocally complaining, as they have a right to do, about the odor situation. This is a real problem. It's not just a complaint. I've experienced it myself, so I just want you to know that. Let's see, there's a button to touch here somewhere. Oh, the mouse, okay. All right, so the image you have up there is the GIS showing the sewer plant's property a little darker, and in that property on the high ground is the actual plant. The neighbors who are affected, many of them on Main Street, Pleasant Valley Road, the odors actually can move far beyond what this picture shows. The Wood Memorial Library is adjacent to the plant, especially the Nawashi Village, which entertains or educates children from the entire region in the Native American culture here in New England. So that's just to give you an idea of where this problem is occurring. We now have a picture of the sewer plant, and I won't give you a complete lesson on how we process sewage. I will say this is actually a very amazing facility. The raw sewage comes in the building that's labeled Headworks. When it goes out, it is clear water, crystal clear water, almost drinkable. We don't remove phosphorus from it, so that's the one reason why you wouldn't want to be drinking it. It goes into the Connecticut River. The last stage, or one of the stages, actually is strong ultraviolet radiation that kills pathogens. But anyway, it's a series of tanks. One of the first things that happens is the solid materials are separated by screens and sent over to first a gravity thickener building and finally to a sludge storage tank, which you see labeled on this picture. And then from the sludge storage tank, the sludge that's, again, basically solid matter is piped into trucks and carried over to the Hartford sewer facility where they can incinerate it. The liquids are processed through all the tanks that you see there, and eventually, like I said, we dump clear water into the Connecticut River. The odor, there are many sources of odor in varying strengths that could occur here. As you can see, some of the tanks are actually open, but the worst players in this are the gravity thickener area and the sludge storage tanks. When you take measurements of hydrogen sulfide, this is where you get very high readings. If now the fumes or the air from above these tanks and all the other places is piped, as shown in the arrows, over to an area that's labeled a biofilter. There it is, it's right there. It's a 3,700 square foot layer of compost and wood chips with bacteria in it that when it's working effectively, it basically eats up all the odor, chemicals, and clean air comes out. So there's a series of pipes under there that kind of spread the air from all these different places under there. And what's been happening is sometimes that thing gets overwhelmed. And so either that or little channels develop in the compost and chips when the untreated fumes come out through there. So that biofilter works most of the time, works really well, but at times the odors are getting out through there. So it's actually a failure of this biofilter that's, you know, under various circumstances that's causing the problem. So we'll now move on. So we have actually begun, and I'm going to go back if I can, previous. We've initiated 2 corrections, even though odors come from all these other places. The 2 high priority ones are the gravity thickeners. We've ordered a carbon filter system for that, and that is actually due to arrive in March. So the plant has been modified to accept that equipment, but the equipment has not arrived. It's been slow in coming. In the sludge storage tanks, we're using a system which will spray an ozone and water mixture into the air above the sludge, and that captures and neutralizes the various chemicals that create odor. The worst one, again, hydrogen sulfide, but there are numerous chemicals that this Vapex machine actually takes care of. So this is a picture. We've run a trial of this process. So right now we have one of these pieces of equipment on loan to us, and it's sitting on top of the sludge storage tank. That's Tony Manfrey, our superintendent of pollution control, showing that to me. That thing will actually be installed under in a chamber that's below the surface. So we actually had a problem when we got that really cold weather. The thing froze, and we stopped getting odor control. But the experience with the trial has been very good. Because they had some startup problems, they've extended the trial for 2 weeks, so that'll be going on for another 2 weeks. Unfortunately, when they remove that, we'll probably be getting those odor complaints again. But so far, it's been pretty effective for us. And again, it basically uses electricity, air, and water to make ozone, and the ozone neutralizes the fumes. So we have prepared a request to the state for a $2.6 million grant where they would issue a bond. So it's called a bond request, but it's a bond that the state pays, not that South Windsor would pay. This has been supported by Senator Anwar, Representative Delnicki, and Representative Khan. And actually, this same request has to go in through both houses. So we have a bipartisan support for this. Hopefully, we'll learn as the budget process goes forward whether we get this money and how much. So we've actually paid out of our capital improvements budget, we've paid for the gravity thickener carbon filter. So the odor control for the sludge tank will probably be that Vapex system, since it seems to be working really well. The rest of the plant, what we call the west side, we would like to put more odor controls throughout the plant, try to control it at the source rather than in a single location. Ultimately, there are places that should be covered that give off a faint odor. So covering these anoxic tanks and primary effluent channel will control that. And then eventually we'd like to demolish this biofilter. Now, to really design this thing, we will need to have a design process done, and that would be done for everything but the sludge storage and gravity thickener. So this engineer would design the west side treatment and the demolishing of the biofilter. Will it come out exactly the way we envision it? No, that's why we're hiring someone to do the design. So I'd like to just do one more thing, and that's talk to you about the timeline. The sewer plant was built and the sewer system was first installed around 1966. And we were actually, I put in a request to Tony Manfrey and by the way, Jeff LeMay here is our supervisor of the sewer plant. He's a class 4 sewer plant operator and he's definitely a first-class expert in how to run a sewer plant. 2002, whoops, what did I just do? Okay, help. Let's just say that the sewer plant was upgraded in 2012, and immediately after that, a study was done of the odor control system, got a glowing report, which I'm not sure all the residents would agree with, but
yeah, I'm just trying to remember where I hit.
so that was in 2013. In response to all the complaints we'd be getting,
Yeah, I know, I'm just trying to remember.
I think that's fine, we don't need it.
From current slide. There you go.
Tony Manfrey ordered a new study of the system. This company, Ty and Bond, came out with a subcontractor, went around the plant doing measurements, gave us a number of recommendations. And then after that report came in March of last year, our Tony and Jeff went around to regional plants to see what they're doing. And right now we have this ongoing VAPEX trial. The gravity thickener is going to be installed this month. We've submitted a bond request to the state. And if all the money comes through, we should see full implementation start in July. Again, initially with the VAPEX system and then the rest of the plant. Probably take 1 to 2 years to do all of that work, depending on the usual things that affect construction work. So that's where we are. I'm here to answer your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner, for that presentation. Thank you, Mr. LeMay, for joining him this evening. And I would just like to say that I took a tour of the sewer treatment plant, and you have to be like a rocket scientist to know how to run that thing down there. And I think you fit in very well, Mr. Wagner and Mr. LeMay. Thank you for your training in operating that down there. Many computers and systems and chemicals, and you guys do a fantastic job down there. Thank you. Unfortunately, yes, we do need to upgrade our system, and I'm glad that we've gone out for the bond for this. So is there any council members? Councilor Kubaski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Wagner, I'm very happy to see that we're moving forward with this. I took a tour of the Glastonbury plant where they use the carbon filter, and they were big proponents of it. And they said that it was, it's worked very well for them. And I can tell you that the day that I was there, there was very little odor, nothing like I've experienced when I've gone down Main Street. So I'm very happy to see that we're moving forward with this. So thank you very much for pushing this and
Yeah, the authority has been, spending time on this every meeting, all last year, and we're very anxious to see this problem go away also. A modern sewer plant shouldn't stink. I mean, that's the bottom line, and we obviously need to try to fix that.
Have you let the neighbors know that this is moving forward? Are they aware?
Yeah, I actually sent them all a complete copy of all of the applications and letters to the governor and letters to the secretary of the bonding authority, and so I think they're well aware. They seem to be appreciative.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Wagner, for your report. It was very informative, and unfortunately, it has come to this. But is this an option that will last for years to come? Is this a stopgap, this proposal of $2.6 million? Because I remember, I think residents came before us last year and spoke about the problem, and we had sort of talked about it a little bit, but now that we see some numbers and actual estimates and things like that, I just want to get a sense as to, is this the plan for the next 20 years?
This is a long-term solution.
And
we have been doing a number of stopgap measures to try to beat the problem down and make things more tolerable. Sometimes they've worked pretty well, sometimes they haven't. So that's why you probably get the feeling from residents that all we're doing is stopgap stuff. But obviously we needed to think this through. So no, this is intended to be a permanent solution for the plant. Obviously there'll be some maintenance from time to time, but
right.
Yeah.
Is it, so would the residents see any relief before June 2025, if this were to go according to plan, or like you're going to turn this thing on June 2025 and then it will be,
When these first two systems come in, they should see a very significant improvement. And then we're going after the much lower level sources of odor.
Great, and one last thing, if the bond commission decides not to, fund this through a state bond, is there a plan B?
Well,
that involves us?
Our current draft budget, and the authority has not voted on this, so our current draft budget shows us doing the VAPEX system next year. That will result in an increase in the sewer rate, which is basically, you can't get money from somewhere else. You have to get it from the users, the people who use the sewers. It's not the sewer system pays for itself. Although the town is paying for the bond to do the upgrade that was done in 2012, but basically we get money from the sewer fees, we run the plant that way. If we can't get money from other sources, we're doing a tremendous amount of work with ARPA funds, but we're very worried about the condition of our pipes throughout the town. So we've been focusing on that with the ARPA funds. And you saw that, some of those pipes go back to 1966 and they're reaching the end of life. So a lot of them have started to develop cracks. We've been inspecting them, lining them with a special plastic liner that gets frozen in place and it makes the pipe like new. So that's an effort we've also been working on pump stations that need upgrades. So there's a lot going on that isn't related to this, but we would have to raise the sewer rates if we can't get help from the state.
All right, thanks.
I would just like to follow up with that if I could. First of all, I want to thank you for all the hard work and effort that you've put in at every WPCA meeting, and also to our staff who's been cooperative and working with WPCA and finding a solution for the stink on Main Street, you know, it's been there, I know, I teach at Nawashi, so I smell it. But to do this in a 9-month period, to get the bond out there, the bond request out there in 9 months, when you just got the report in March of last year, and you guys worked very, very hard on this, so congratulations to the WPCA for sending out the bond request for this and working on this, looking at the issues, figuring it out, and trying to find a permanent solution for what we have going on in town. We have to take care of our infrastructures, especially the sewer treatment plant. But I thank the WPCA for all the hard work that they do, and the WPCA is a separate entity of no jurisdiction under the council whatsoever, and you guys are doing a fantastic job under your great leadership, and I hear your passion. I do. I hear your passion and how much you've invested in this, and I want to thank you personally for all the hard work that you've done.
And thank you. Thank you for your support.
Please pass that on. Thank you. Thank you for coming this evening. And moving on in our agenda, we now have Councilor Paterna, which is 13B. Poet Laureate, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you know, we have a poet laureate in town. His name is Charles Margulies, and he is preparing to step down. And as a result, he's been searching for other candidates that the mayor could appoint as his replacement. And he's recommending to us, and I want to read you a brief resume of Steve Straight from Manchester Community College and also a resident of South Windsor. Steve Straight was a professor of English and director of the poetry program at Manchester Community College for 30 years. Before that, he taught writing and literature at the University of Connecticut, Eastern Connecticut State, and Quinebaug Valley Community College. His full-length collections includes Affirmation in 2022, Winner 2023, an award for poetry, the Almanac, the Water Carrier in 2002, and he's been a finalist for the Connecticut Book Award in Poetry. For many years, Steve directed the Connecticut Poetry Circuit, which coordinates the readings of professionals and student poets for all of Connecticut's colleges. And for many summers, he directed the seminar poetry series for the Sunken Garden Poetry Festival at the Hillstead Museum in Farmington. In 1998, he was named a Distinguished Advocate for the Arts by the Connecticut Commission on the Arts. As director of MCC's poetry program, he organized more than 150 poetry readings for the community, including the Poet Laureate of the United States and Pulitzer and National Book Award winners. He was also editor of the college's prize-winning literary magazine, Shapes. So, and there's more, and I will send this out to all of you, but I think he's a person I'd like to recommend to the mayor to appoint as the next Poet Laureate for South Windsor. Charles also suggested that we consider naming a student Poet Laureate, and that is Ria Saxena. She's a junior or senior at South Windsor High School, won a number of poetry awards. She read for us one evening a poem that she entered into for the Connecticut Supreme Court. I think it was Law and Justice and Poetry Day. So she's someone who could be, as a student Poet Laureate, would work with the Poet Laureate and get involved in more poetry readings and perhaps a poetry book here in South Windsor. So I will bring, this is a discussion item right now, but I will put a motion together, send you all the resumes, and we'll take it up at the next meeting, if that's okay.
Thank you, Councilor Paterna.
Make sense?
It makes sense. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilor Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Paterna. That was very enlightening, and a couple things. Hearing that, I feel like a huge slacker in my everyday life based on what that person's doing. But secondly, could you explain to the folks at home and resident, what does a poet laureate, what would a poet laureate do for us as a town? Like what would be their role in our town?
Right, and I'll use Charles Margulies as the example in the sense that he organized poetry readings. He organized 2 books of poetry that were written, or the poems were submitted by residents of South Windsor, and he arranged the financing through grants to publish those books. He's had poetry readings in the library. So he's trying to keep poetry, and that's what the Poet Laureate would do, keep poetry as an active part of our arts and culture here in South Windsor.
Thank you. That's
okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gamble. Is there any other comments or questions or discussions? Not hearing. Thank you, Councilor Paterna. We'll look forward at it. to it at our next meeting, if you could bring something forward at the next meeting or the meeting after that.
Okay. I
Thank you
will.
very much.
Thank you.
Counselor Paterna, again, my goodness,
Sorry.
13C,
Sorry. Thank you,
the
Madam Mayor.
Energy Committee.
The Energy Committee is sponsoring our first South Windsor Community Forum on March 13th at 7 p.m. right here at the Town Hall in the Town Council Conference Room. And it's a free program. And Steve Lewis, who's will be the moderator for the program, he's very involved in electrifying not just cars, but homes. He's done a lot of work in his own home, but he's a member of the Energy Committee. And that will be, the title of the program will be How the Inflation Reduction Act Can Save You Money on Energy Costs and Help Save the Planet. So this is to make people aware of how many state and federal programs are available for you to get rebates, tax credits, by putting in more, either buying electric cars, putting in heat pumps, solar panels. So it's all the most up-to-date information. So that'll be here on March 13th at 7 p.m. Hope you can join us. Please spread the word. And I will send this flyer out to all of you, so if you wanted to post it on your Facebook page, you can do that. That would be great.
Could we also have it on the town's page?
I think Amanda's working on that, putting it on the town page already, yes.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
And then the last thing for the Energy Committee is, we had a discussion, I think you have in your packets, the original from May 19th, 2014, the original motion that created the Energy Committee, and as you can see, it outlines the structure of the committee, and it really doesn't have a maximum number of people. It says at least 7 members. So we are discussing how we could expand the Energy Committee, and that's something I'd like to bring to the Town Council and look for ideas. If you have people that you would like to suggest to either Marek or myself or Cesar Lopez, Councilor Lopez, we'll try to expand that committee and get more people involved. So thank you very much. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Paterna. Does anyone have any questions for Councilor Paterna on any of the Energy Committee items? Not seeing any, we're moving on to 13D. Councilor Evans, please.
Thank you. The open government, or making amendments to open government resolution. You have all had a couple weeks to sit with and review the original draft, and now you have before you a revised draft. Councilor Kozakowski did his magic that he does and made some great changes, as well as some other individuals who really provided some great input on some changes that could be made to this resolution. So what there was only one other feature that I wanted to, well, a correction first, sorry. On the front side, you'll see at the first, be it further resolved, you'll see listed human relations, inland wetland, patriotic commission, mass transit, and highway, social justice. If you turn it over, there's a second list of, well, it lists 5 commissions. When the clerk of the council and I were working on this, we were doing it over the phone, the final revisions, and I think some things got a little confused. So on the back of the sheet, if you could cross off inland wetlands, mass transit, and patriotic commission, and instead include historic district commission and public building commission. That is one change. Additionally, after some further conversation with members of the council, the thought is to roll out that first group beginning April 1. It would give that first group of March to work with IT if needed, to ask questions, rely on their liaisons, because I think it's important that we as liaisons are really helping our commissions through this in the month of March and then April when they launch. And then what came out of the conversations additionally is that second group would begin their learning aspect in September and be expected to begin recording October 1st, no later than October 1st. So those are the changes. Despite what you see on here, that I would recommend going forward. So if anyone else has any other changes or recommendations, we can go through those tonight, and then I'd like to send this off to the town attorney to review, finalize, for us to approve as a resolution next meeting. The split of the commissions on the first and the second groupings is based on the responses that we received and the kind of the feeling from the commissions on how ready they were to begin their video recordings versus ones that either we didn't hear back from or a little less comfortable with the video recording. So it gives that second group a little more time to adjust and see how it goes with the other groups. We also only have one go bag at this time with the video recording, and the hope is that by the second group launching, we would have that second go bag. I don't know if Mr. Roberts would know when we would be expecting that, but hopefully by September, we would have that second bag to be using.
Thank you, Councilor Evans. Councilor Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Evans, for putting this all together. I know as part of the subcommittee working group, but you did a lion's share of the work. So just for the second grouping, we're not saying they have to wait. If they were ready and wanted to go and start recording earlier, they could, correct?
Yeah, I think that if there was a group within those second listed commissions that really wanted to get going and they felt strongly and we just hadn't heard from them, they could. Part of the reason for splitting the groupings was logistics of that go bag and being able to have someone pick it up, use it, and drop it off. That was kind of the
Right.
kind of trying to work through that with that first group. So I think that would be the only thing that would kind of maybe prevent them if they wanted to. We'd have to look at the schedule, but I think ultimately it wouldn't be a problem, no.
All right, thanks.
Mr. Roberts, do we have any idea when the boat from China is getting here? I know, you're not the captain of the ship. I know. Really? Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Evans. Would you like to, Councilor Kozakowski, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to thank Councilor Evans for considering many of the edits that I proposed. There's just two things that I wanted to kind of bring for more consideration. You have, well, first you had two references to November 1st, but I think, like you just said, you're going to rework the dates, so that's fine. And then just the last, be it further resolved, still reads a little tough. Read it out loud, you'll hear it. That could just use a little bit more work. But otherwise, this has been a great process. Thank you.
And so at this point, Councilor Evans, you'd like to send this off to the town attorney for him to write up a draft for us to visit and to put on our agenda when we get it back?
Yes, and if I could ask Councilor Kozakowski, would commission meetings be available to the public? Would that fix that the implementation of regular video recordings of the commission's meetings be available to the public? Being available? I'll look at it again. Yeah, okay, thanks. If we could, for our next meeting, get this to the town attorney and have it ready for a resolution at the next meeting. And then that will give us March to work with those commissions.
Correct.
My ask is of my fellow town councilors, we are all liaisons to these commissions, that we all step up and help these commissions to adjust to this in March especially, and then again in September as well.
So, Madam Mayor, if I could.
Absolutely, Deputy Mayor King.
So, in your perfect world, then, it'd be like a workshop that, say, the chairs and the liaisons would all be at, as well as whoever the secretary is for those different commissions. So it'd be at least those three that would be in this particular workshop to learn how to handle these.
I think my thought would be that we just have the liaison, if IT is available, to attend the meeting that that commission has in March, that they could review it at their regular meeting. And
Okay.
just kind of
So just go through it
see
at
what
the
that
meeting.
would look like, set it up, test, ask any questions, and just
Okay.
make sure that they're comfortable in March, in that moment. It's not a bad thought. If it's something, I don't know if it's something our IT department could offer if people wanted that extra help. Maybe that if someone feels, I know there was one commission that particularly felt that they might need some technological help with it. I know, Madam Mayor, you'll be attending those meetings, so hopefully that commission can get, a little extra support if they need it.
That's my commission. I got them. You need it. I do. No, I got them. I'm wrapping my arms around them. I got them. No. Thank you, Councilor Evans. We look forward to the resolution to take care of this. Mr. Maniscalco, could you assist Councilor Evans in getting that to the town attorney, please?
I've already got a note to do so.
Thank you. And moving on in our agenda, we are now on item 13E. Councilor Lopez, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 13E, resolution authorizing the sale, donation, or disposal of surplus vehicle. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby declares a 1996 Emergency 1 E1 heavy-duty rescue white over red Cyclone 8 person cab walk-around body with a 6V-92TA-350 horsepower engine, 20 kW generator, VIN number 4ENBAA86T1006268, approximate engine hours 4,091.8, to be surplus equipment, and authorizes town manager Michael Maniscalco to sell, donate, or otherwise dispose of this vehicle.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? I see that the chief is here this evening, if you'd like to address us. If you could, and Deputy Mayor King, question?
Yeah, the only question I have is in regards to the sale, donation, or otherwise disposal of the vehicle. Is this the type of vehicle, and you can explain it as you're discussing it, that I remember many years ago taking my son up to a Yukon, and they had a fire engine, and it was one of those things where it wasn't in use, but it had been. So if we're not able to sell it at a decent amount or something, would it make sense to keep it and utilize it as such?
So first of all, thank you for allowing me to be here. The past and present and hopefully future support of our apparatus replacement plan has been very much appreciated. So this is part of our plan to replace our apparatus on a 20 to 25 year period of time. At that point, the goal is to sell the apparatus so there's still some value to it. Keeping it in our fleet is not something we want to do. There's no need to keep additional trucks. As the truck gets older, the maintenance costs skyrocket. So for us to keep that for whatever doesn't really make a lot of sense for us. It's really cost prohibitive. The goal is not to add to the fleet. We've been very fortunate that this truck was replaced. As you'll learn in the future dates, our apparatus replacement plan has been updated. That will be presented to you in the very near future. But you're going to learn that it takes about 3 years to replace a fire truck. From the day we start talking about it to the day we see it, it's at least 3 years, possibly 4, depending which manufacturer you go with. So we've just replaced replaced this heavy-duty rescue. We obtained 1 new fire police vehicle in the last year, and their support has been tremendous, and I can't thank you enough on behalf of the members of the fire department. But part of that plan is to get rid of the apparatus that we don't need. So this heavy-duty rescue has some life left to it, but for us to keep it the way we operate, with only 1 rescue truck in town, most of our calls are rescue-related, or at least that truck responds to even the fire calls. So that's probably the busiest truck we have in town. So it's been a good value for us. We've got, I think, 26 years out of that truck altogether so far. We probably pushed it to its limits. It's time to get rid of it. But I think there's still some value to it, so the goal is to sell it. I know some people may recall we donated a truck a few years ago to the correct school up in Enfield when it was a public safety academy. I'm not aware of any requests to donate the truck, so the goal is not to donate it. If we can't get rid of it and it's just really cost prohibitive, at that point, if all of our efforts fail, then we can just donate and get rid of it. But the goal is to sell it. The money does go back to the general fund, not to the fire department. So, so for the budget purposes, whatever we get from it, will go back to the general fund. The way it's written is the town manager is responsible for selling it, but we're certainly willing to help and be the arms and legs of getting it done. So that's what we're looking to do now, is sell it so we can not add to our fleet. So.
Thank you, Chief. Is there any questions for Chief Koenig?
Can
Councilor
you-
Gamble?
Can you see the lights? Are the lights harder to see on these microphones?
They're little. I have to look. I have to look over one to see the other.
So did you say that this truck has already been replaced?
Yes.
So we would not be buying a replacement, we've already done that?
Done that already. Yeah, it was actually put in service in November, the new truck that took this one out of service. But we kept it these few months just to make sure there's no issues. And there was a few bugs to work out with any new kind of vehicle, you know. The new Rescue has a great deal of new technology and things had to be worked out. So we kept this old truck just in case. But now we're confident that everything's been 100% satisfied with the new truck. The new truck's in service now. It's been doing us very, very well. So the other one's just sitting in our firehouse, taking up space. And the longer a truck like that sits, the less value it has. So,
Do we anticipate getting a decent amount of money for that? I don't know how much fire trucks go,
you know,
especially the
I don't know. I
26-year-old
think
trucks.
prior to the COVID pandemic, I would say maybe 20,000. But now, because the new trucks take 3 to 4 years, there's now a need, sort of like car business, right? There's a new need for used cars versus over new cars because you can't get the new cars like you used to be able to get them. So to get a new fire truck takes 3 to 4 years. So there's now a higher need for a used fire truck. So I'm thinking maybe around 40,000, but we're guessing.
Right.
I don't want to give you a false number and give the manager a
I'm
check for
not going to
5,000,
hold you to
you
it.
know?
I was just curious. I didn't know if it was like, because these are $1 million. I didn't know if
Yeah, I
it was
know.
100 grand or.
It's sort of like an RV. They depreciate pretty quickly.
Right.
But it's still got to be of value to somebody at this point. The truck is in decent shape. Certainly, you know, for a department that doesn't use it like the way we'd use it, it might be a very good asset, you know.
And just one last quick question. Are you going to have another truck coming up for sale, donation, or disposal anytime soon? Is that part of your, like, is your plan, like every couple of years you're getting?
So our replacement plan, the next truck is, we're pushing our limits for 30 years for the next truck, but that's not going to be replaced for probably 3 or 4 years. And when we meet in the near future to review the updated apparatus plan, you'll see the timeline for that. But we won't be looking to dispose of that truck for at least 3 or 4 years.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gamble. Councilor Kozakowski?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just 2 very quick questions. Who's the market for 30-year-old, you know?
A lot of
fire trucks?
smaller, I call them less supported communities, especially all over the different parts of the country, where they don't have the community to support a purchase of a new fire truck. And a lot of the places that we deal with for vendors, if we have to sell it through a vendor, they sell it overseas. So the town of Enfield just sold a ladder truck. It went to Argentina, I think it was. So there are vendors that will help us sell the truck if we can't sell it locally or, you know, relatively easily in-house. We can hire a vendor. There's about a 10% cost share, but I think it's well worth it, and it may go somewhere overseas even, so.
Okay, and my last question is, do you have to have any special licenses to drive one of
In
those?
You're not
Connecticut,
getting one, I'm sorry, no.
In Connecticut, you need at least what they call a Q endorsement, sort of like a motorcycle has an M endorsement. It's a normal driver's license, but with a Q endorsement is a minimum to drive a fire truck. If you have a CDL, that also oversteps the Q endorsement. Every state's a little different. So some states, there's no requirement to drive a fire truck.
Okay.
But Connecticut, there is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm just hoping that my husband did not listen to that at home, because he will make me buy this. No, no, no. 'Cause he
But I just
has
want to
all this
reiterate
business.
again the support
Thanks, Chief.
that we
Appreciate
receive from
that.
everybody. So
Go ahead,
thank you
Mr.
very much.
Maniscalco.
I was just going to mention, it sounded like Councilor Kozakowski was interested in buying it, and I don't think his wife would be really happy if he parked it at home, so.
I
just
know,
wanted to-
I'm not. Between you and Packy,
Looking out
I'm
for
telling you.
himself.
Telling you, not happy. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Chief, for coming this evening and explaining that to us. All those in favor of this motion? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Thank you. Moving on, Counselor Kozakowski, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. 13F, resolution setting a time and a place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on the appropriation of $35,000 from the capital non-recurring funds account to the FEMA dispatch renovations account to install 2 911 backup dispatch workstations at the EOC. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby sets Monday, March 6, 2023 at 8:15 p.m. in the council chambers of the South Windsor Town Hall at 1540 Sullivan Avenue, South Windsor, Connecticut, as the time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on the appropriation of $35,000 from the capital non-reoccurring account to the FEMA dispatch renovations account.
Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion? Counselor Kozakowski? Okay. I would like to have our fire chief, fire marshal. I'm still on the fire truck. Give me a second. Fire Marshal Walter Summers come and speak to us concerning this, please.
I don't think I can park the rescue truck at the apartment, so. Thank you all. First, I'll hand out a diagram to everybody if it would help out. And I'll have this up for the,
Thank you. They made this for you, Deputy Mayor King. They're gonna be like, you know?
So back when the EOC was built, one of the rooms that did not get completed as part of the project was the dispatch room. The goal has always been to have a backup dispatch center there, which would also complement the command center during activation. We can actually put a 911 dispatcher down there, and the calls, routine calls can be transferred down there to handle all the, say I got a tree here and I got a tree there, instead of tidying up the 911 callers. So in October of 2021, we applied through Senator Chris Murphy's office for congressional direct spending. And what that is a grant program that goes directly through Congress in the regular budget, and they set aside some money for Emergency Operations Center renovations. It's a very competitive grant, and we were able to get an award. The total project cost at that time was $112,000 is what we estimated. The town's responsibility is 25% of that. So we were awarded that in April of 2022 after Congress finally passed a budget. And then we went out and got prices and everything, and eventually in September of last year, we finally got the end number, which is $116,813.42. So we have added a little bit of contingency in there based on COVID pricing and everything. And so we're looking for $35,000 to match the $84,000 that we got from the federal government for this. So what you have in front of you is the layout that the company has set forth. There'll be 2 positions down there and a third kind of spare area, and then we have to buy all the technology and everything that goes in there. The furniture setup and delivery is about $76,000 of it, and then the rest of it is all the technology, the next gen, and all the computers and all that. So that is our project, and we're looking for the $35,000 to complete the project.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Is there any questions for Mr. Summers at this time? Not hearing it. Mr. Maniscalco, how much is in our capital non-reoccurring?
current amount, I'm not exactly sure, but I do know that this has already been approved from capital, correct? So
Yes.
the amount is there
Okay.
for this.
And we do have a copy of capital non-recurring in our packets. Okay, and Mr. Roberts, will you be available to help with the installation on the technology piece of things for the dispatch center? So we'll be doing in-house work? Yes?
As much as we can, I mean, some of this equipment, movable desks and stuff.
Okay.
And then we
Mr.
have, I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, we also have Clay Major with facilities.
Yep.
He's already going to work with us. We actually have a project meeting tomorrow with him to
Great.
outline the schedule.
And Mr. Summers, can you give me an example of a time, and I know there has been one, where the police department was either offline or inundated with 911 calls when it would have been fantastic to have extra dispatch down at the EOC during some type of a storm or something that we have to deal with?
So the 2011 storm, and then, what was it, a microburst we had about a year ago, where, you know, the two 911 dispatchers were actually pretty well tied up with just routine calls coming in. So this would relieve a lot of that pressure at our 911 center for the real 911 calls, and then they can transfer the routine ones down to the command center. And then we actually work with GIS and everything. They can take those and actually put them up on the command board there, and we'll have that information a lot quicker, I think.
And I don't recall, but you may refresh my memory.
Sure.
If it may have been the microburst, but there were 4 chiefs or deputy chiefs on in one day here in town, taking many various different calls. And I know at our command center, it's so awesome that you can see the road, you can see the house, you can see the location up on the screen, and everybody is right, snap on, pinpoint, everything's raring to go. So
And
this is just going to assist in all of our emergency operations of our first responders. This will help with them in responding and also help with our public works, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And another point is that if there is a problem up at Sand Hill, we can actually dispatch out of there and, you know, move the dispatchers down there. And whatever needs to be taken care of up there, we can get that taken care of.
Right, and please, my memory, was it the microburst I was just referring to? Yes, thank you. And Counselor Kozakowski, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Did I hear you right, 76,000 for furniture?
So the furniture, let me bring up the quote, I'm sorry. So the furniture itself is $46,561. Shipping and delivery is $67.50. The labor for the company to come in and install it, it's their furniture is $9,240. Setup for the council and everything, which is all the technical stuff for Marcus and everything, is $8,640. And then we have $5,000 in project management, which comes out to that $76,000 number. And then the technology for the council itself, the Scout EX Council, is $34,093. The speakers, the microphones, the foot switches, the position computers, the monitors and all that, fill out the balance of that to come out to about $116,000.
Okay, 46,000, so for furniture, that's desks, cabinets, like, it seems like there's something expensive
It's all that
I'm missing.
furniture you see on that diagram. What the FEMA grant requires is you have to do American-made products. You can't buy anything but American-made. And luckily, Russ Bassett is American-made, and it's also, they also have the GSA account for FEMA, FBI, and all the federal government things, so the pricing is very good.
I think it's also important to point out that this is dispatch furniture specific. So
Specific.
it's not like buying an office desk and an office chair. This is specific dispatch furniture, which is very different because it's got the ability to run the wires through it. It's made specifically for certain types of equipment to be placed on it in certain ways. And, it is significantly more than just buying and outfitting an office, for
Correct.
example. It is something that makes your eyes top, though, sure.
So there's so I'm hearing very specific conditions on what you can buy and who you buy it from. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. One more question. Once that this is up and running, and this is a great idea, can you please tell me whose budget this is going to fall under for maintenance and/or replacement and/or upgrades or whatever it may be? Whose budget that's going to fall under? Okay, got my answer. Thank you.
But yeah, it'll probably fall within IT.
And IT,
And
okay.
And
the
EOC.
overall EOC, management that.
And do we currently take care of the police, does our IT currently take care of the police department's
Yes.
technical needs?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you for coming this evening.
Thank
So now we are on to the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Counselor Gamble, 13G, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
What's that? You're welcome, sir.
Resolution approving of 16 tax refunds, the total of said refunds being $5,335.02. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves a refund of property taxes to 16 South Windsor taxpayers. The total of said refunds being $5,335.02, and as more fully described on Attachment Exhibit A.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Not hearing any? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Thank you. And now moving on to item H, which is 11A1. Counselor Paterna. It's on page 3 of 6. The Joe Kennedy one? Just the resolution, then you have to read it with the corrections.
Okay, so this is a motion to approve Joseph Kennedy. Be resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby appoints Joseph Kennedy to the WPCA as an alternate with a term ending on November 30th, 2025. I think that's the right date now, right? To replace David Basile. Okay.
Perfect, thank you. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Thank you. And now moving on to passive ordinance, there is none. Item 15 is public input for any matter. Public input for any other matter shall not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by the mayor, the speaker shall approach the lectern, give their name and address. Speaker shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging an improper motive to any person. The speaker may address the council on any item. The speaker shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to the council on any matter that is not on the agenda? Is there anyone from the public? Good evening, Ms. Stelnicki.
Nice. I'm here tonight to inform you that I am just handed to the town manager and for the assistant town managers and to you as town council an FOI request for the written definition of high standards. Due to my many previous attempts for this definition that you have failed to respond to in writing, you left me no choice but to issue this FOI request.
Thank you, Ms. Stelnicki. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to the council on any matter other than what is on the agenda? Anyone else from the public would like to speak to the council on any matter other than what's on the agenda? Going for a third time, is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to the council on any matter that is not on the agenda? Not seeing any, we'll move on to item 16, which is communications from the council. Is there any communications from the council? Councilor Paterna?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With the recent visit of President Biden to Ukraine and Poland, we know that the war there is continuing to challenge the Ukrainians and kill so many innocent civilians. So coincidentally, we had a person on our agenda tonight. Bodan Maximic, I think is how you say it, we just appointed to the Mass Transit Highway Advisory Committee. He's involved with a group called the Ukrainian American Youth Association of Hartford, and he asked me if I would just pass this along if people wanted to make donations to the Ukrainian American Youth Association of Hartford at 961 Weathersfield Avenue in Hartford, Connecticut, 06104. Please consider doing that. And if you prefer to donate online, you can go to Ukrainian, I'm going to take this down so you can hear this, UkrainianTearsLLC.com, and you can donate online to help Ukrainian families. Thank you.
Thank you,
Madam Mayor.
Councilor Paterno. If you could share that on Facebook to all of us so we can share that, that would be fantastic.
I will, yes.
Now we're on item 17, which is Deputy Mayor King is going to be reading 17A, please.
17A, executive session inviting the town manager, Michael Maniscalco, the assistant town manager, Ms. Perry, and assistant town manager, Mr. Roberts, as well as the town attorney, Rich Carrera, discussing 17A, pending claims or pending litigation related to 460 Miller Road.
Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. We will be adjourning from executive session. Have a good evening, and I want everyone to be safe.